Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hey Everybody podcast, episode 70. I, as always, or at least for now, am Christopher Gold. Oh, I'm having a day. Not a bad day. Just, a day where, there's house stuff and it's windy and my trash cans keep blowing over and I got to go outside and pick up the trash cans. And, sometimes it's hard to be a human. But other times, it's just kind of annoying. But I'm doing good. I just had a nice long talk with my lady, which is always a highlight of my days. And, I hope you guys have someone like that where just being around her or just talking to her makes me feel better because, it's proof that there's good stuff here too, though, And if you had to re-sign the deal where hey, you get to be with this person all the time, you guys are going to have this kid, you get to play songs for a living, but sometimes the trash cans are going to blow over. I wouldn't get up and walk away from the table. You know what I mean? That trash can thing's too far. So yeah, how are you? I'm on my second cup of coffee today. I feel myself sort of combating a sadness. Not combating, just keeping an eye on it. I sort of imagine if you were camping and there was an animal in the woods and it's not really bugging you, but you feel like it's still an animal and maybe it could. So you're just sort of keeping an eye on it and trying to keep your food high, that kind of thing. I think it started last night. We're engaged in a conversation about whether or not our son should have a phone. And maybe it's old-timey, but I really do believe it's a serious thing and it should be a conversation that he's involved in, that he's not involved in, all this kind of stuff, because it's a big deal. His whole life will change completely, and I don't want to approach it as if it's anything other than a big deal. Because if we approach it like a big deal and then it ends up not being a big deal, hallelujah. If we just go into it all casual, well, he's almost 13, here's a phone, and we don't prepare ourselves or him for that kind of change and, that kind of thing, I'd rather be surprised by the fact that something wasn't as big a deal as I thought it would be than be surprised by the fact that it was a much bigger deal than I thought it was going to be. But for me personally, this has been a big year for him, in a wonderful way, where he's growing up and he's, like I said, he's closer to 13 than he is to 12. He's going to be a teenager. Yikes. And thus far, it hasn't been a problem. He's wonderful. He's a great kid. He's very well-natured and well-behaved and well-mannered, and I like him a lot. I love him more than anything, but I am very fortunate that I like him a lot. But, there's a lot of happiness to seeing your kids grow up and become who they're going to become and see them transition into all these new phases. But there's a sadness there too, because if you do your job really, really, really well, or with the right spirit, the intention, I think, is that this job should always be changing and to a certain degree, always stopping. I will be his dad forever, and I will love him till the end of time. He and I can both pass away, and I'll still be somewhere loving him. But, every step along the way, he needs you a little bit less, and that kind of thing. And that's wonderful. That's a part of the process. It's kind of a great thing about being a parent is that it forces you to reckon with the fact that life is sad and wonderful at the same time sometimes, a lot of the time. And it frees you up or sets you up to think about how a lot of things can be a lot of things a lot of the time. And sad doesn't always mean bad, and maybe happy doesn't always mean good, or happy doesn't always mean the absence of sadness, or vice versa. So it's a wonderful thing about being a parent. Being a parent has opened up my mind in a way that I don't think anything else could. And, I couldn't have predicted. And it's been great. But like I said, I think anyone who's a parent knows exactly what I'm talking about, that as they grow up and start to need you less and that kind of thing, you do feel a little bit like, oh, my whole life was about, you could break it down by year. My whole life was about being a dad to a 3-year-old. And now I don't have a 3-year-old anymore. I have a 4-year-old. So my whole life has to be about being a dad to a 4-year-old and learning how to do that. And then you start getting kind of good at it. And now, damn it, he's 5. I don't know how to be a dad to a 5-year-old. So all that to say, my constitution is such that a little bit of sadness can get in there, even if it's like a good, righteous sadness. And it kind of opens the door for like any kind of other sadnesses. Next thing you know, the recycling bin blows over and I go, oh, life is just misery and pain. But it's not. It's great. Speaking of things being multiple things, there's something on my mind. And all this podcast is me telling you guys what's on my mind. I don't want to romanticize it any more than that or be responsible for it being any more than that. But I saw a thing happen on the internet this weekend that I won't bore you with. It was just a band I like, and they were having some kind of issue. And of course, people in the comments are weighing in, and they're telling a person, you got to put yourself first. You got to take care of yourself. You got to put yourself first. You're the most important thing. You got to put yourself first. And they were very well intentioned. And right up front, sometimes that is true. Sometimes you do have to put yourself first and take care of yourself and be the most important thing, for sure. But I think the problem with so much of life happening in comment sections and tweets and that kind of thing is that it forces brevity. And it does not allow for longer conversations or complicated conversations. And I think what I really believe to be true is sometimes you have to put yourself first. And sometimes your well-being is the most important thing. And sometimes you are the most important person. But I firmly believe much more often, nah. Even if you are having a problem, I think a couple things. One, a wonderful cure to a lot of problems is service. I think 2 of the best things you can do are make a gratitude list if you're feeling sad or angry or depressed or anxious or whatever. Just physically in your head, on a piece of paper, whatever. Write down the stuff you're thankful for. Sometimes I list guitars in my head. And the other thing is be of service to someone. I realized last night I was sort of marinating this sadness of like, oh, my son's growing up and I have to figure out how to be a father to a teenager and how to sort of redefine boundaries for both of us and what does it all mean and blah. While I'm also happy for him that his life is going well and he's a popular kid with friends. It's great. And I realized his laptop was not charged. And he needs his laptop for everything in school. So I had to spend time trying to track down the charger for his laptop because I didn't know where he put it and he was asleep. And then I charged his laptop for him. I wrote him a little note, said, hey, I charged your computer for you. Have a great day. I love you. And just doing that made me feel a little better because I wasn't doing the other thing anymore. There was a second where I was being sad is what I was doing. I was sitting there and I was being sad. When I stopped doing that and I got up and went and did something else, when I eventually came back to the sadness, all of a sudden there was all this other stuff there. Like, yeah, but there's also a lot of joy. There's much more joy in this situation than there is sadness. And maybe this sadness is a joyful thing because you're sad because your relationship with him is so good and you've really enjoyed being a dad thus far. And not all people can say that about their kids. Not all men can say that about being a dad. That kind of thing. And I think, though it is true sometimes, and that's really important, it is true sometimes, I think it would be very damaging to me and my psyche and my well-being and my mental state and my emotional state to spend too much time swimming in the waters of, I need to take care of myself. I'm the most important thing. Because, probably you're not. Sometimes you will be. But the other thing I've realized is, I think it's a good time to pause and ask yourself, I have to make this about me so no one feels like I'm not telling you how to live. If I found myself thinking, I have to take care of myself, it would give me occasion to pause and think, why? Usually, I have Tori to look out for me and help me out much the way I do for her. And even Ollie to a degree. And I have friends and I have family and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes if you do have to take care of yourself, if I had to do that, it would be a good reason to pause and go like, why is no one else doing this? And maybe there's some answers in that. Maybe it means like, well, maybe this problem isn't as big a problem as I think it is if the whole world's not rushing to help me with it. Or maybe I'm not being the kind of guy I want to be if I'm totally alone right now and there's no one around to help me with this. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's something I think about a lot. Like I said, as I see more and more of the world being lived on the internet, have you seen what Facebook's doing, dudes? Oof. It's called Meta now, and it's like virtual reality. They straight up never want you to leave, and that's terrifying. You should also be terrified of a company that's worth billions of dollars but doesn't sell you anything or make anything, because you have to wonder where that money's coming from, and you know where the money's coming from. They're selling your information, or they're doing something even worse that we don't even know about. Anyways, all that to say, I think all good conversations are long. And I think most problems that have existed for a while that are eventually solved, it takes time. And I think it's complicated being a person and living a life in a world and that kind of thing. And I worry a little bit, and this sort of rolls into Ollie getting a phone. I worry a little bit about a world where our statements are statements and they're not part of a conversation. And, someone with a platform said something that my wife and I were both like, wish he hadn't have said that. I like that guy. But then we were both talking and we both said like, but don't you think that like if you sat down for coffee with him and he said that and you could go, well, what about this? He might go, well, yeah, totally that, but also this. And then, after 15 minutes in good faith, all of a sudden you like each other again. And you realize like human beings are not meant to make or receive statements or hard and fast ultimatum, rule, structure. They're made to think they want that, and they're made to want to do that, but it doesn't go well. I think what humans are really made to do is be around other humans and discuss and talk about stuff and be free to say the wrong thing or the impulsive thing or admit that they were wrong about something. I heard a story about two well-known comedians, and they had a run-in with each other. And one said, "You're being insensitive." And the other one said, "You're being oversensitive." And they were mad at each other for 3 years. Until the one that had been accused of being insensitive realized he had been a little insensitive. And the one who'd been accused of being oversensitive realized he had been a little oversensitive. And then he realized that the person he accused of being insensitive, well, they had a lot on their plate and they were dealing with some stuff. And the person that had accused him of being insensitive realized they're dealing with a lot. And no wonder they're this person's feeling sensitive. This person isn't being very sensitive. And it took them 3 years to be honest with themselves or to see themselves and to empathize with the other person. And now they're friends again. 3 years. And we're letting our relationships And people on this planet sort of live and die by what they said on Twitter without opportunity to discuss it or, that kind of thing. So it sort of raises my eyebrow when I see a lot of people say, you got to put yourself first. Because a more accurate statement would be like, sometimes you definitely have to put yourself first. And sometimes you're around people that aren't looking out for you and that kind of thing. And that's true. But sometimes what makes you feel better is not putting yourself first. And sometimes you can see a different truth about a problem if you look at how other people are reacting to it. And all kinds of stuff. And I've been thinking about that a lot and then immediately putting it into practice for myself. I do this a lot. If I'm feeling kind of blue, I will either try to just stop thinking about myself altogether. Like I'll read a book, I'll put on a record, I'll take a walk, or even better, I will try to go do something for someone, or I'll just be thankful I have someone to talk to about it. And I would encourage everyone to try all that stuff. Even though I'm not saying that there aren't going to be times where you just have to put yourself first and take care of yourself. Doctors can't heal people if they're terribly, terribly sick. And it's that kind of thing. You got to take care of yourself. You got to look out for yourself. But, maybe not be so damn narcissistic all the time. Ooh, there's a lot of that going around. Anyways, I'm in a band named after me, and I shoot a podcast with no guests. So let's stop talking about narcissism. Start talking about records. This record is by Dan Andriano in the Emergency Room, and it is called Hurricane Season. Dan Andriano is a musician from Chicago. He notably plays bass in a punk rock band called Alkaline Trio, and this is his first solo record. He has a second one and a third one on the way. And this is his most songwritery, like acoustic guitar guy kind of thing. And I love it. I love hearing people in a different setting. I love when people are writing great songs in a genre that the songwriting doesn't always get the credit it deserves. And then they branch out and the whole world has to go like, holy heck. Me in Denver is a great song. Hurricane Season's a great song. From This Oil Can is a great song. So, listen to Dan Andriano. And listen to Alkaline Trio, too. And then, this record is called Good For You, and is by Houndmouth from Indiana. This is their fourth and most recent record. It came out last month, I think. And I love it. This record in particular, there's sort of three approaches, I think, to dressing up a song. Because usually when you write a song, one of the most popular ways to write a song is one person will sit down and write the song and then bring it into an environment where either you add stuff to it until it feels just right, or you add as much to it as you can possibly think of and then start dialing it back. I know for a fact that Gregory Alan Isakov, who I love, has said a song is done when he finally adds something that he feels like he should take off. But he adds as much as he can. That's how I make my instrumental stuff. I just pile stuff on until it finally feels like, okay, that might be too much. We take one thing off and it's done. Then there's the third way, where you take a song and you add stuff to it as sparingly as possible, where we're not going to put anything on here that shouldn't be here. We're going to do as little to this song as is humanly possible because we want the song to stick out. And that's what these guys have done. They are a three-piece that usually sounds like a three-piece. And I like that. And I think the first song on this record, the title track, it's called Good For You, is probably top three side one, track one, 2021s for me. In no particular order, it would go Nice Things by Hayes Carl, Jazz on the Autobahn by the Felice Brothers, and Good For You by Houndmouth. So check them out. If you guys want to come see me play music live in person like a human being would, I'm going to be in Fitchburg, which is basically Madison, I'm told, at a place called Funk's Pub, which I'm told is like a nice listening venue, opening for Brian Vander Ark from the Verve Pipe on December 10th. which is this coming Friday. And then Saturday, December 11th, I'm doing the toy drive, the 11th annual toy drive to collect toys and money for the families at our local domestic abuse shelter here. And it's something I care about a lot. And I'm bringing the band. We're going to do a full-on rock show. There's no tribute this year. There's no, COVID did its best to stand in our way. And by the time it felt proper to actually move forward with the thing, it was a little too late to do anything other than I'm going to get some musicians I like, and I'm going to ask them to play their songs that I like. I'm going to bring my band, and we're going to put on a big old rock show. And that's going to be fun too. As always, you can check my website if you want to come see me live. I hope this made sense. If it didn't, let's call that meta performance art, because life doesn't make sense, man. So if I make a podcast, it doesn't make sense, man. It's like I'm pointing out that life doesn't make sense, man. All right. Let's wrap it up. Why, I got to go check on my trash cans and make sure they're not tipped over. Did you see even there I had to stop myself and control? I hate wind, you guys. I was a little kid riding my bike and there's wind making it hard to ride my bike. And I decided right then, wind is going to be the thing I hate. And it's going to define my life because of its stupidity. Because who hates wind? You can't do anything about wind. Nothing. But I hate it. And I'm almost 40. And I talk about it sometimes with my wife. I just hate wind so much. Knocking over my trash cans. I hope there is an afterlife wherein I can do 12 rounds with wind. That was stupid. All right. I love you guys. As I always say, and this is a great way to wrap up today, take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. The unspoken part there that impacts today's talkings being maybe taking care of someone else is how we take care of ourselves. Maybe it's how we realize we don't need to take care of ourselves. Maybe it's what puts us in a position that makes other people want to take care of us. That's the beautiful thing about all beautiful relationships. My relationship with my wife, she's always looking out for me and I'm always looking out for her. And the logical conclusion of that would be neither one of us has to look out for ourselves as much as we might be naturally inclined to. Hallelujah. I love her so. She's wonderful. So yeah, there you go. I hope you got some good stuff in your life, and I hope you are paying it some attention. We will talk to you next week. I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah, if you're a celebrator of Hanukkah. And yeah, do what you do, and we'll see you soon.